Welcome back to the Atari Hangar. This is Mike, and I'm going to be talking to you today about portable handheld video game systems. Now, before I started with the Star Wars and Transformers toys and collecting those, I was collecting video games, and I was actually started back up in college when all I was doing was working and go to school. And the little bit of spare time I had unwinding with a video game, starting with my old Game Boy, was really what got me back into it. So it's a bit of a slight obsession of mine over the years. And I just kind of, as technology progressed and as things got smaller and last generation was held in your hand, just impressed me. And I just craved that and wanted it. The previous generation on the go, and it's kind of what Nintendo did. Now, I'm not a Nintendo fanboy, so I'm not going to spend this entire time talking about Nintendo. I do want to say that I try to make videos that are different than other ones that are out there and not cookie cutter videos copying other people. I just really want to do my own thing. So I'm going to kind of go from room to room and era to era because I have different rooms, different collections of different types of things in different places. It's just kind of the way I do it. And so it's not going to be 100% chronological, but sort of. And it's not going to be heavy into Nintendo's offerings because those have been done to death. So I want to focus on the more obscure items. I want to focus on things that you don't see every single day and the things I picked up. And then also I want to talk to you about how I view these items and all these systems from when I picked them up back 20 years ago when I bought them, and how I feel about each one of them today. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information on each one, and let's just get started. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about, of course, is the original Game Boy. Now, I have quite an obsession with these portable handheld video game systems, and yeah, I would definitely call it an obsession. But I would get these at garage sales for, I had my original one, of course, and then, between $1 and $5 at garage sales. If I saw one, I'd pick it up. If not, it was no big deal. But I didn't realize I had this many till I started just compiling them. I was like, let's put like kinds together so I can kind of see what I've got. And that's when I realized I had quite a few of these. So I plan to do some lighting mods in them and a few things. So we're going to start with the original. And the original had multiple different colors. So you can see I got a couple of clears. I got a lot of the original. I really went after the original. And then I have a black one. It's got something special. It has a lighting mod, so I'm going to show that to you here in a little bit when we get to the Game Boy Advance. So here is the Game Boy Pocket, and kind of what I do with all of my systems here is I play my worst condition system. So you can see batteries in, and I'll probably display whatever system I have that's the worst condition one, and that will be the one I play the most. So of course I'm a collector of these things, I want to keep the good ones in better shape. Here's a Game Boy Color, and I have quite a few of them. The lighting mods on them are a little bit harder, but so back in the day when the Nintendo came out, they didn't have backlights. They didn't have the LCD screens. They had this really terrible non-color screen, and then we went to color. Then we had Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance itself was a huge jump in processing power for the Game Boy. They still didn't put a light in it. So I'm going to show you some more obscure things. This Game Boy Advance here has a light in it. Now, the best way to get one is get the one that they've adapted, an AGS 101 Game Boy Advance SP in. And it's really not fair because this light on my camera is also helping it. It looks a little more washed out when it's pitch dark. But anyway, this is a cool lighting mod. I like it. It works. I think there's a dimmer on it. It's called the Afterburner that's in this one. Now they also made a halo light which clipped on the top, and you had to swap out your plastic cover. And so those kinds of things are interesting little mods that they make over the years. And so I didn't do any of these myself. I let my friends do those. Other people do them and just bought them done. Now this one here looks more washed out on camera than it really is. There we go. That's a good angle. You can kind of see it. But of course, the best game ever for the Game Boy, Tetris. See, there you can see the lighting mod in effect. So those are some of the more obscure items when you come to Nintendo. So old school Nintendo before the Game Boy Advance SP. I'll show you another way. This is called the worm light. And the worm light is, you could use the worm light on all the different systems. They had, basically you just shine a little light on your screen. Next I want to show you one of my, kind of my setup when I played in the 90s on the Game Boy Color. So with the Game Boy Color, the add-ons made by Mad Catz, Newbie, and Mad Catz, it added sound and light. So I'm kind of show you the light on this Cobra light reflected down on the screen, and it gave a better, you could see the light a little bit better on this in the dark. And so that was, you hear that sound? Let's pull it off and look at the difference in sound that you get from that. Pretty impressive. So some of the add-ons, there's a ton of add-ons. This is another lighting mod for the Advance, works just like the worm light. I forgot what they called it, but it was some weird name. Next I want to talk to you about some of the competitors to Nintendo. So when you look at during that time frame of the Game Boy and then moving into the Game Boy Pocket and all that, you have the Atari Lynx, and actually I'm jumping ahead. Here's the Atari Lynx. There's a 1.0, and the reason it was upside down for a second is to show you it actually does convert. You could be a left-hander on this one. I don't really think that even people that were left-handed took advantage of that because you're just so used to adapting. But anyway, this is an interesting feature they had. You also could turn the backlight off to, I guess, save on your battery power if you want to pause it and then come back to gameplay. So, pretty cool feature. I thought this looked really cool. I thought it looked way cooler, a lot more fun than the Game Boy. But the games were kind of sorry for it. Kind of zoom in here on some of the games. But there's Hydra. I just pull them out of there, but the games weren't that great. The only game I ever liked playing is called Chips Challenge. Then this down here is the 2.0 version, and it's fatter. It's not as thin, but it's overall smaller. And I think the Atari Lynx was better graphically, probably in every way, but the games weren't that great. Next one I want to talk about is the Sega Game Gear. Now the Game Gear was a good system. I actually bought this off of a friend of mine who sold me his collection for 40 bucks. Pretty much just like this. This was pretty much his collection. I added some more games and this power brick. Got a couple of these. These are very vital if you want to be portable. If you want to actually be portable with the Game Gear, here's a Game Gear with a Genie attached. But if you want to be portable with a Game Gear and you want to be portable with the Nomad, then you're going to need that alternate power source. I actually only have, I didn't realize when I got my first one, this is the second one, and it actually still has the plastic on it. Got this from my buddy in a deal, but so I just leave the plastic on it. And it's the Nomad is a portable Sega Genesis, and really, it's like a really close brother to the Game Gear, an older brother, or I guess a younger brother, however you want to look at it. And it plays the Genesis games on the go. So you can play your Shinobi 3 from the Sega Genesis. Next, I'd like to show you the Turbo Express. And actually, this one here, I don't even power on that much anymore. They have bad cap problems. I replaced some caps in this one. The one downstairs I've replaced less caps in, and I didn't fix the sound on it just yet. I'm not as good with the soldering iron as I would like to be, and I really don't want to send them off and have them done just yet, but I need to soon before the caps leak everywhere and ruin it. Turbo Express is one of the coolest handheld game systems ever made. Although nowadays, I mean, they're coming out with stuff that blows it out of the water, but this I love my Turbo Express. This is the TV tuner. It clips on the side of the Turbo Express, then you screw it in. Non-functional now because we're no longer on analog. It plays these games that are turbo chips, and if I'm gonna go ahead and do a TurboGrafx 16 review, just going through all of the stuff, TurboGrafx 16 stuff. Now it's kind of rude of my Nintendo 64 stuff try to get in the way of my TurboGrafx 16 games, but this is what they look like in their jewel cases. That's what they call them. They also come, I don't know if all of them did, because I just don't remember back, because I didn't have them back in the day when they were released in the stores, but there's like a box that it came in, and inside the box you have the jewel case. Here are some TurboGrafx 16 only magazines that I acquired from a gentleman that sold them to me as a garage sale. He's a really nice guy, and he was, I think in his 70s, and he said he collected all the stuff right when it came out, and he really gave me a good deal on it, so I'm keeping it all, and I just really enjoy it. I just never even thought about how print media is going out and is going to be almost impossible to find soon. So the last thing I want to talk about in this room before we move on to the next room is this. This is not actual portable handheld video game system, but I'm going to throw it in as an honorable mention. Mad Catz made a screen for the PS1, which to me was like the precursor to the PSP. And then, you know, I've got the actual screen. The official one that was released by Sony. You also had that on almost every system. You had one for the GameCube, and I personally thought the future. This has the protective stuff on it. It's not all beat up. I just don't take protective plastic off if it's on there. If I get it in the wild and it's still on there, it's going to stay on there. But, you know, this thing is kind of bulky and cumbersome. But, hey, if you play in the backseat of your car or whatever, nowadays we have much better options. Now, for some of the obscure stuff, I want to talk about Tiger Electronics made what's called the GameCom. Now, I have the GameCom. They call it a Pro. It's more of a miniature version. I don't know if you can catch that on screen there. This is a very lousy system. It was horrible. It was cheap, and I got it even cheaper. But this one here, I like the purple. I really do. I really like the purple. But this one did something different. It has its own indigo light. I got so much light in here, it's not showing up probably proper enough, but this thing sucked, so it doesn't really matter which one since there's so much light in here. But I got it because it was around the time the Game Boy Advance was coming out, and I thought the Game Boy Advance was pretty awesome, and I just had a real obsession with these things. Anyway, not worth the time, not worth the money, but it's just something fun to have, you know. It's during that time frame. The next thing we'll talk about is the Wonder Swan. So the Wonder Swan, this is the Swan crystal. So where it started with was all black and white. Black and white, starting with this model here. I like the fact that the black and white one had a switch on the side to turn it on and off. My favorite game, since this was only released in Japan, my favorite game for it is actually a game called Buffer's Evolution. And you could see the whole cartridge, more or less, just the contacts protruded out of there. But this is just basically a running game. It's a timed running game. The hard part about buying a Japanese-only system is how are you going to find games you know you're going to enjoy that you can play without reading Japanese and knowing what's going on. So this also had an orientation. There you go. You can transport into like a rolling thing and try to beat your time, and then you have to hit these certain objectives. But anyway, that was a really cool system. Next one they came out with was in color. And really all I want to show you the difference is the difference in contrast between these two. The color looks really washed out. the Swan Crystal, Wonder Swan Crystal, very sharp. Best game that I played on it is the Digimon Battle Spirit. So next I'm going to show you the TurboGrafx 16 in action. As you can see or hear, this one does not have the sound caps fixed. It does have the video caps fixed because the video was kind of fading out, like it barely even come on. You could tell it still worked because you could hear the processor and stuff, but anyway, this is Blazing Lasers, probably one of the best games for the system. Next, I'm going to show you the Watara Supervision. This thing was not released in the United States either. It was an overseas deal, I believe. Anyway, I just picked one up because it looked like a Game Boy, and in my 20 years ago when I was really into collecting these things. And this is really just alleyway. Sound is amazing. It's super loud, like right out of the box loud. It actually wasn't a bad piece of hardware compared to the Nintendo, but again, didn't have a lot of great games for it. I got like 20 games or so, and they come in packages looking like this. The Watara Supervision, I think, is had a chance of beating Nintendo, but they did not have the greatest games, no quality control in the games, and so kind of I don't even care to open them and play them. Next, I want to talk about the NeoGeo Pocket Color. Now, I don't have the NeoGeo Pocket black and white. I only have this one, and I have that other right there. Yeah, that one there. I've got that black version. Now, it's telling you, since this is an old system, that the sub battery, it used a battery to back up your saves. So all my save data is gone because the battery's dead. But it's not like it's... Well, no, it still has continue on it. How is that possible? So this has the best game on the system already in it. And the NeoGeo Pocket Color is Metal Slug 2. Second mission. Best game. They ended up selling this in a package deal. They packaged it in packaging similar to the Gamecom packaging, but it looked just like this, except it had 9 games with it, and it was $70 at the end of its lifespan. And the game, it just had the games, not the these are the boxes, but it literally just had the games in the case. So 9 of them with a system for $70 back in the day at the end of its lifespan. Another casualty of Nintendo. Hey, I was rooting for it, that's why I bought it. Next thing I want to talk about is some Game Boy options here. So there are 2 different versions of the Game Boy Advance SP. And one has the brighter screen, and one does not. It basically turns on and off. So that's the difference between these 2 Game Boys. Next, we're getting into some DS territory, and I'm going to show you the original DS here. So this is an original DS that has been through a lot of work in its life. And it's a fatter... I was not a fan of this thing when it came out. I appreciate it more nowadays than I did back then, simply because, well, it just took Nintendo in a different direction. There are some cool games on it. Contra on this is great. It uses both screens, top and bottom. So the next thing I want to talk about is the DS Lite. Now my kids play a DS Lite, and it had an upgraded screen. It was better than the original DS, and I don't have any games in it, and it needs to be charged. But the screens were so much brighter. It was day and night. In fact, well, the AGS 101 screen is a little bit brighter than this, But the DS, if you get a DS just to play, you want to get one these days just to play. That thing was kind of, don't like that one. Then I would definitely go with a DS Lite. DSi's, get all these used, and some of them are kind of in really bad shape. So this one's not too bad a shape, but it's a fun. The DSi itself added a camera and a few other functions to it. Just in my mind, it was really a waste of time to even go to the DSi, because as soon as I got a DSi, they announced the DSi XL. This thing here is definitely the better version. I have a few different colors for it too, and you can get it for a much better price. Let's compare it to a DS. See, kids really mess these things up, but look at the size difference. Just massive, massive size difference. Imagine going from this to the DSi XL. There are two different versions of the DS. Cancel that nonsense. But there are two different versions of the DS. So this is the original DS, 3DS XL. Sorry, 3DS XL. I guess I'll show you the regular 3DS. Games load on top, and it was good. It's fun. The new 3DS XL has this little C pad or whatever, so it's like another joystick. Games load on the bottom, which is weird, and then the screen itself, the 3D. I wonder if 3D just looks fuzzy on the screen. The 3D is not, it doesn't hurt your eyes as bad. So it's much upgraded. It's what I feel I should have put out in the first place. The original 3DS was a disappointment. I was one of those suckers that bought one at launch, and then 10 months later they come out with the 3DS XL that blows this out of the water. But it has its own charm, and it actually feels really tight. The screen doesn't flop around. The bigger ones, the screens flop around. The screen doesn't flop around on that one. I don't want to shake them too much, but you get that point, right? Now, you do remember me saying I'm not going to talk about chronologically. So I'm not. This 2DS, I think the 2DS is pretty cool. I bought a used, got it for like $40, and it came with a few games. It's pretty slick. I like it. Gets the job done. So this is where video games get fun. PSP. You can effectively on PSP, I'm sure there's a way to play all the old Nintendo, Super Nintendo games. It's funny if you're playing Contra on your PSP. But these things are awesome. It really changed, in my opinion, the portable handheld video game world. It changed what you wanted out of a portable handheld video game system. And so with that, you've got many different models that they made. Now, the one I want that I haven't tracked down for a decent price is the green one. You know, obviously you can go spend $100, but you know, I got the blue, which is my favorite, and the red, which I appreciate a lot more right now than I used to, and the white Star Wars edition. It just has a Darth Vader on a battery cover. Kind of let down that that's all that there was to a Star Wars edition, for obvious reasons. Next, I'd like to talk about my modern day passion. What I really like the PS Vita, and the main thing I like about the Vita is its ease of use. So when you simply just hit the little power button, it comes right on, and you're in a game, whatever this game is here, tournament tokens. But anyway, you're in a game, boom, hit the home button, you're out of it, you're going off to do something else. So, awesome. definitely awesome system. There's two models to it. There's the 1000 and the 2000, and of course with the PSP there are three models, the 1, 2, and 3000 model. If you guys want me to make a special video on the PSP, I can, but I am going to do a Vita video because I'm really passionate about the Vita. And there were a lot of cool things that came with the Vita. I'll just show you real quick. Like, you can store your games like this if you want to in these carrying cases. And I bought collections, so I got all these cases. I'm not a real fan of cases because I really don't travel with them. I just kind of play them here. But if I bought someone's collection and it had a case, you better believe I'm just going to hold on to it. So, I mean, they're all branded. They have different functions to them. You can turn it into a controller. I think I got like 6 of these. So it's kind of fun. So for most of my game systems, I only have a handful of actual hard copies software. I didn't really go after the games until Vita. Vita got me excited. It's my favorite handheld video game system. You can see over here I have some Vitas, and then I have the Infinity 2.0 for my Vitas and characters to go with it, which Infinity was clearancing out. It's a great time to buy it. Alright, so next I want to show you some more obscure things that I've had over the time frame here. This one here is making a lot of noise. Is called the JDS 7800S, and where's the home button on that thing? It's pretty cool. It's huge. It's massive. It's really hard to get in frame here. Now, comparing this to the Switch, you can see the Switch is, I don't know, it's about the same size. If you look at the screen, Switch is a 6.5 inch, that's a 7-inch screen. So this thing's massive, the JDX 5800S. I think the Switch is going to be my favorite. I like it better. I just got this because I was kind of like, what's it going to be like to own a Switch? So I bought this thing here just to fiddle around with it. And it's an Android tablet. You play some Android games and stuff. And it's pretty cool. I like it. But compared to the Switch, I'm liking the Switch a lot more now that the Switch is coming out with some games on it. So, you know, we've got Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart, ARMS, Street Fighter, Zelda. So I think the Switch itself is going to take over as my favorite video game system. Then we have this bad boy that doesn't want to shut up. This is some Japanese clone game system. Don't know what it's called. But playing one of my favorites, Metal Slug. That was, I mean, this thing just came preloaded with a bunch of games, whatever. I guess plug and play or something. I like to buy those kind of things. It's easy. But the problem with this one, and it's with all those other ones that they sell from China, is that this thing has, well, limitations, and it's cheap. And the first one arrived like that. So this one I got this one for free. Why'd I keep the broken one? I don't know. Next is the Dingu. I like the Dingu. I've never played a 3D game on it, so I don't know. But it plays games. It's fun. I let my kids play with it. I got it for $5 at a garage sale. It was already set up, full of games, ready to go. I was like, cool, I'll play it. Gave it to the kids. But now they kind of outgrew it. They're into some other stuff, so... Then this one here, last thing I'm going to talk about is the Tapwave Zodiac. This is the Zodiac 2, which was far improvement from the first one. And the only game I own for it is Spy Hunter. And it's, as you can see, it looks really washed out on the screen. But this thing here, a funny story about it is I bought it for like 30 or 50 bucks without a charger. I found the specs for the charger. And I ended up making my own charger. I found a charger that met those specs. I cut it off. I used the wire leads, positive and negative, and it's pretty impressive. I was able to charge it that way for a long time until I actually bought a real charger off eBay when they finally came down in price to like 10 bucks. These chargers were like $50 or $60. It was insane. It's got a special charging port. So like and subscribe. Thanks for sticking to the end with me. If there's anything in here that you see that you'd like me to do a more in-depth review on, I touched on PSP. I didn't really go in depth on all the different models that there are and what all it does, but I really like the Go. So let me know what you think. Was this video too long? Tidarium Hanger out.